Just think about the sheer, staggering architecture of your own mind. Tucked inside your skull, there are roughly 10,000 trillion neural connections, a configuration so vast it would take a modern supercomputer decades to model even a fraction of it. These are the physical pathways that carve out every thought, memory, and impulse you possess. But then, what happens the moment you close your eyes? Most of us spend about 2 hours dreaming every single night. If you track that over an 80-year lifetime, it adds up to nearly 60,000 hours. That is nearly a decade of your existence spent in a state of total biological disconnection from the waking world. Here is the paradox. Every one of us dreams, even if we wake up with a blank slate. Why does a brain with such an immense electrified network stay active while the rest of the body is forced into a state of deep, silent repair? That heavy, irresistible pull of sleep, the feeling when your eyelids feel like lead, is not merely a sign of tiredness. It's actually the arrival of a chemical tide. The culprit here is a molecule called adenosine. As your neurons fire throughout the day, they burn energy, and adenosine accumulates as a metabolic byproduct, kind of like exhaust from a working engine. This molecule drifts into your basal forebrain, binding to specific receptors. As the concentration rises, it acts as a chemical brake on your alertness. This is the sleep pressure you feel. It forces a transition from wakefulness into a series of repeated rhythmic cycles. Your brain doesn't simply turn off, it decelerates, shifting from the sharp, jagged frequencies of alertness into the long, sweeping electrical waves of deep sleep. It is a complex, synchronized symphony, and as these cycles repeat, your mind moves through stages of recovery and reorganization in a precise rhythmic dance. Back in 1862, a chemist named August Kekulé faced an intractable problem. He was obsessively trying to map the structure of the benzene molecule, a hydrocarbon made of 6 carbon atoms and 6 hydrogen atoms that was both smelly and highly flammable. He had exhausted every logical waking approach, but the puzzle refused to resolve. Then he drifted into a nap, and in that state, he hallucinated a snake biting its own tail, the ancient Ouroboros symbol. He jolted awake, realizing the benzene ring was not a linear chain, but a closed, stable loop. John Steinbeck famously labeled this phenomenon the sleep committee. It suggests that while the conscious mind is exhausted and stalled, the subconscious continues to crunch data, discarding the rigid rules of logic to find creative, elegant shortcuts. Which leaves us with a sharp question. How does the brain solve a complex 19th century chemical structure in a dream? And why are some answers only accessible once we stop trying to solve them? Now we reach the peak of the cycle. REM sleep, or rapid eye movement. This is where the biological lock engages. Your muscles are paralyzed, a safety mechanism to prevent you from physically acting out your nightmares, but your brain is firing on all cylinders. During REM, neural activity levels are often higher than when you are awake. This surge is powered by the neurotransmitter acetylcholine. Your breathing quickens, and your eyes dart behind closed lids, tracking a world that exists only in your neural feedback. This isn't just a human quirk. Whales, wombats, wildebeests, and house cats all experience REM sleep. A blue whale drifting through the crushing dark of the ocean has a brain pulsing with the same REM patterns we do, perhaps processing the memory of a migration or the sensation of the hunt. It is a universal mechanism of the mind, stretching from a domestic feline to the largest mammal on Earth. Yet, What if these elaborate stories are just a glitch? This is the core of the activation synthesis theory. It posits that dreams are merely side effects of biological processes, essentially neurological noise. In this view, the brainstem sends random electrical pulses during sleep, and the cortex, desperate for order, insists on threading them into a narrative to make sense of the chaos. I find this perspective jarring. It implies that the surreal jump from a flying fish to a talking house is not a hidden message or a deep psychological insight, but rather the mind acting as a desperate storyteller. It cannot stand the silence of random noise, so it weaves fragmented shards of memory and emotion into a cinematic experience, simply to explain the random electrical sparks occurring in the background. Evidence suggests that your brain is actually practicing while you are passed out. There is data showing that dreaming improves mental efficiency far more than sleep alone. In a 2010 study, researchers tasked subjects with navigating a complex 3D maze. The results were stark. Those who dreamed of the maze before their second attempt were significantly more successful than those who did not. In fact, the dreamers were 10 times more successful than those who remained awake and simply thought about the maze. 10 times! This is a massive leap in performance triggered by nothing more than the brain's internal rehearsal. Then there is the Alpine Racer 2 experiment. Roughly 1/3 of participants dreamed about the game after playing it. Researchers suggest that specific memory processes occur only during sleep, and dreams are the visible markers of this optimization. When you see fragmented pieces of your day swirling in your head, it is a signal that your brain is hardwiring a new skill into long-term storage. You are not just resting, you are upgrading your mental hardware. We have several frameworks for this. One, the reverse learning theory from 1983, suggests the neocortex scrubs away unnecessary neural connections during REM, a noise filter that deletes irrelevant data to make room for new input. Others point to the continual activation theory, which argues that dreams are a replay system, converting short-term memories into long-term ones, acting like a screensaver that keeps the system's electrical rhythms humming so the brain does not atrophy. But there is also the threat simulation theory, which suggests dreams act as an evolutionary gym. If you dream of running from a predator, you are practicing your fight or flight response in a risk-free environment. Similarly, social simulation theory posits that we rehearse social interactions, testing our responses to rejection or conflict. For those carrying heavy burdens, REM also provides emotional surgery. Because stress-related neurotransmitters are less active during dreaming, we can relive painful memories with less anxiety, effectively turning a trauma into a processed memory. Long before we had EEG machines, humans were obsessed with the secret language of the night. In 3000 BC, Mesopotamian kings wrote their dreams on wax tablets for interpretation, treating these nocturnal visions as divine messages. 1,000 years later, the ancient Egyptians created a dream book containing over 100 interpretations to help guide the confused. Some of these were remarkably specific. For instance, dreaming of pouring a jug of urine into the Nile was considered a great omen for a bountiful harvest. Fast forward to 1900, when Sigmund Freud published The Interpretation of Dreams. His own fascination began with a specific dream called Irma's injection, involving a former patient who refused his treatment. Freud proposed that dreams are the sum of images from conscious daily life, but disguised as symbolic meanings to fulfill desires in the subconscious. Carl Jung, however, expanded this by focusing on archetypal symbols universal to all humans. Rather than just focusing on the subconscious, Jung believed dreams had two functions. compensating for manipulating ignored or repressed elements of the psyche and providing hints about the future. Despite all this, science has not found a single definitive answer for why we dream. It remains a frontier. We know that when external sensory input drops, the brain automatically triggers the production of information from memory stores, creating the thoughts and feelings we experience. But the link to mental health is more complex. Many scientists believe that sleep deprivation contributes directly to mood disorders and PTSD, as those suffering from these conditions often face severe sleep difficulties. We are still searching for the exact spark that turns a biological necessity into a vivid internal narrative. We know the machinery, the adenosine, the REM paralysis, the acetylcholine spikes, but the purpose of the story remains one of the most stubborn mysteries in neuroscience. We begin our nights by succumbing to the pressure of adenosine, drifting through electrical symphonies, and sinking into a paralysis that mimics death, but is actually a peak of cognitive activity. From the benzene ring that clicked into place in Auguste Kekele's mind to the 60,000 hours of phantom lives we live over a lifetime, dreaming is a sophisticated biological system of optimization. It is a way to scrub the static from our neural connections and a sanctuary where we simulate threats and rehearse social futures without the crushing weight of reality. We spend a third of our lives in the dark, yet our brains use that time to hardwire our skills and map our subconscious. If the brain is a machine that never truly turns off, what else is it solving while we are unaware?